Welcome to the Art of Badassery, where I explore what it takes to live life on your own terms, break free from the status quo, and unleash your inner badass. Whether you're a rebel at heart or simply seeking inspiration to step outside your comfort zone, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Mahara Wayman, and each week I dive into the stories, insights, and strategies of those who have mastered the art of badassery and are living life to the fullest. They smile when no one is looking. Welcome to the Art of Badassery podcast. My name is Mahara, and I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest, Alyssa Zonghetti. Born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, Alyssa is a true city girl at heart, balancing her love for urban life with her passion for the ocean and spending time on the golf course. With over 20 years of experience as a corporate event planner, Alyssa has mastered the art of bringing people together, whether for outings, dinner clubs, or community gatherings. She's all about helping women live fully on their own terms. She loves talking about everything from food, travel, local sports, to the latest binge-worthy shows. She is navigating her midlife journey with high heels, laughter, and resilience, and embracing every step of the way. A total badass, peeps. Let's find out more about her journey. Alyssa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, this is going to be a fun conversation. So, as always, the show is called The Art of Badassery, and we are curious to know why you're badass. I mean, I can kind of figure it out, but let's get the story from you. Take us back to when you first thought of yourself as a badass.
Well, it's funny. I still have a hard time believing myself as a badass, but I do know I have come through a lot. I've had quite the journey in my life that has not always been easy. And now when I reflect back and look and say, you know what, I'm still here. I'm still standing. I've moved forward. I've taken the adversity that I've experienced and turned it into something good. I turned it into a way to help and support other women so they don't experience some of the same things that I experienced. And so for me, that defines a badass, is somebody that is all about helping others and supporting others.
So good. But what type of experiences are you referring to, and how young were you when you started to notice this?
Yeah, so I would say the most poignant part was I became a widow at the age of 31. It was a very toxic, unhealthy relationship. And I didn't really learn any of that until after his passing. And so it was just a very difficult time. Really had to look inward at myself, right? It's very easy to look at the other person, blame them, say they did this to me, they did that to me. And I said, okay, but I really need to understand, how did I end up here? Because it wasn't just all about that person, right? So I had to really dig deep, look at my own, shadows here, and really understand, okay, how did I have a role in this? Because we all can take action, right? We can't control somebody else's actions, but we can control our own actions. So that is really where my personal development journey started, and my work in mindfulness. And so really understanding my role that I had in all of that. How did I keep ending up in these same patterns? How did I keep ending up in these same relationships? Recovering people pleaser over here. I mean, as you said, you mentioned, my corporate career was as an event planner. And so my literal career was to please others. I chose that as my career. Well, no wonder it bled over into all the personal relationships in my life. And so really understanding that, I learned about narcissistic personality disorder, people with sociopathic tendencies, and just how I had a lot of these people in my life beyond my partner. And really understanding how that impacted my life, but also, again, how I ended up in these relationships in all areas of my life. So really evaluating that. And then the big part for me was creating the change around that. So it's great. We can be very self-aware, but if we're not creating the change to move out of it, then to me, it's like, okay, well, what are we doing? So
let me just jump in here, because you're right. There's definitely stages to personal growth and to taking action. Taking action is part of that. But you mentioned that you questioned why it was that you continue to attract these type of people in your life. Was it only after the passing of your partner that you realized that you decided to question, or did you have a niggle all along? Because I've spoken to other women that have had a similar experience, and some of them have said, I kind of had a niggle, but I ignored it for various reasons. And then I had another niggle a few years later, but I ignored that for various reasons. So I'm just curious how it was for you.
Totally. So at the time, right? Like you said, there's kind of these little like something feels off here, something doesn't feel right. But who wants to look at that stuff, right? Like we want to look at the good stuff. So, right, total blinders on at the time. And knew even previous to that relationship was definitely in some unhealthy relationships. But I don't think I was mature enough or had the education enough to really understand that. As you said, it's like something's not right here, but I don't understand what that means. And so that was the catalyst to me. That was really the turning point. That's when I said, okay, like I need to do the work now because now that I like, outside looking in, right? It's hindsight is 2020, as they say. And it's true because once I started experiencing all these major things, I was like, okay, like I have to figure this out because there is something, I have some kind of hand in this. And so I'm not going to point the finger at everybody else. Again, I can only control what I do. And that's really what became important to me is figuring out what can I do to change my trajectory moving forward.
Okay, so good. What was the first thing you came up with when you asked yourself that very courageous question, which, by the way, guys, it's badass to take courageous action on your life. That's definitely a component of being a badass, I think.
Yes.
But what was the first thing that you did?
I mean, very simple thing what a lot of people do, right? I got into therapy. So I started working with a therapist very begrudgingly, but I said I was at a very low point. And after the passing of my husband and stuff, just navigating all of that as well. And so and it was hard. I went into therapy and I was like, okay, I said, I'm somebody that does the work, I'm a doer. And so I said to her, I don't want to just come in here and complain every time I come in. I want to do the work. And so this woman was amazing. And she really partnered with me and we did the work. Like we went all the way back to childhood. Like we dug in and she just taught me so much. And it was hard at times. It was scary at times, but she was just such a great partner for me in that respect that she knew what I needed, gave me some nudges when I needed it, and then also gave me some space when I needed it. But then she really also would challenge me at times and say, okay, no, you don't want to go here, but we need to go there if you're ever going to take that next step forward. So it really started there. And then I really started to understand personal development and what it looked like outside of traditional talk therapy.
So good. And I, just want to take a moment and congratulate you for taking action, albeit begrudgingly. Don't think I didn't catch that word.
Yeah.
Why do you think you felt that you went into it with that type of attitude at first?
I think for me, it's because I like to think of myself as a successful, accomplished person, right? Like very independent, like I don't need anyone. I don't, I got this, I can do this. And so I was just somebody that always went about in life figuring things out for myself. So it was really hard to open up and like just really go there and like talk about things that I would never talk about with anyone else and just get very real with myself and then to be able to share that with someone else. But I realized very quickly in therapy, if I didn't give her all the information, she was never going to be able to help me. So then what am I doing there?
Yeah.
And so it became a real test for me. I mean, I remember she even challenged me to go to a widows group. And I was like, nope. Again, it was different. It was interesting circumstances around the passing of my husband. And so, we were separated at the time and he died by suicide. And so I didn't feel that I fit that traditional widow role. And that was something I had to navigate too, because I felt there was a lot of judgment. And so then it really just fed that, okay, here again, I'm independent. I don't need anybody. I don't need to be part of these groups. Like I've got this on my own. But once I put all of that aside and opened myself up to the experience, it was incredible. And now I'm all about community, right? I've literally built businesses around creating community and connection and storytelling.
Yay for you for going through the journey and recognizing that you need help. And, it's another thing that comes up quite a bit in my conversations with guests is this idea of surrendering and allowing people in. Because to your point, so many of us, especially if we feel a little badass, is that, I got this. Need anybody? I got this. I can Google it. If I need to know, I'll Google it. or something similar to that. But really, human beings are community based. That's how we survive. And often I think in this society, we forget that because we're so busy just going after whatever it is that we think we want or think we need. So yay for you for sort of taking a breath and allowing yourself to go there, as you've said a couple times. What happened next?
So from there, that really opened my eyes to, again, being vulnerable, sharing my story, because I felt once I started sharing my story, so many of us were like, oh my gosh, me too. Oh my goodness, I experienced this as well. And it was like, like light bulbs went off. It's like, see, we're all dealing with our crap out there, right? Like everyone's got their stuff, but we're all trying to like put on this facade that we've got it together and everything's fine. And I just think the more we can talk and the more we can share our stories, that's really where the true connection comes from. So I will say jump ahead to 2020. And it was the start of the pandemic, being a single gal later in life. I was turning 40 that year in the middle of the pandemic. And so, not how I envisioned life at all. And I had created a community for single women to connect online, to support each other through obviously the pandemic and through a very difficult time, but it just morphed into so much more. And I started putting my personal story out there more, sharing it in that community, sharing it in Facebook groups, sharing it on podcasts. And I just got to a point that I'm like, the more I share, the more I can help others. And so much happened. I put one post out on Facebook and connected with a woman who had a very similar journey to mine. And, her husband was living this double life and she knew nothing about it. And we just instantly connected online. We got on a Zoom call and we chatted for 2 hours the first time we met because we just had so much in common. And she's still become one of my closest friends to this day. We started a podcast together and we became really passionate about sharing our stories to inspire other women because we knew, well, if we both lived through this, there's plenty of others that have lived through the same.
Okay. How did that foray, when you really put yourself out there, how did that change you? Did it change you, I guess is what I should start with.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It really changed me. Because what started happening is women kept coming to me and saying, can you help me? Like I'm living that journey now, or I've experienced some of the same, and I want to move through this in a similar way that you have. And so it really just sparked something in me. And I'm like, people are like, oh, can I hire you as my coach? And I'm like, well, I'm not like a coach, like, and they're like, but you've lived through something and you have very valid and valuable experiences to share. And you're great at supporting others. And so I started doing empowerment coaching from there. It was never anything I set out to do, but because I had done the work all these years, from therapy to mindfulness work to NLP to hypnosis, like you name it, I did it. And so I started doing the coaching. And then from there, as I said, I'm somebody who's a doer. And so for me, I really wanted to bring tools to the women that I work with. So again, it's great. Sometimes we just need to talk and get things off our chest, but other times we need to do the work. And so that's what led me on to become a certified hypnotherapist, because I knew how powerful mindfulness was and how powerful our subconscious mind is and how it can really create change for us. So I decided to become certified in hypnosis so I could help other women create those same changes in their mindset.
Okay, hypnosis. Let's talk about that, because I suspect if any of our listeners are like me, for the longest time, I had a misunderstanding around what hypnosis really was. And the first time I experienced it, it wasn't actually hypnosis, but I'll tell you what happened. I did past life regression for a lark in my 20s. So we're going back 35 years, right? A long time ago. And I made the assumption that I was going to be hypnotized, with a little watch, right?
Oh, yes.
I said to the lady that was doing this with me, I said, well, are you going to hypnotize me? And she started laughing. Well, not laughing, but she kind of grinned and said, no, I'm just going to help you remember something. You're not being hypnotized. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I realized even today, I may not fully attribute the correct meaning when someone says that they do hypnotherapy. So would you mind explaining it for
Yes.
me and others that are listening?
Yes. So I get this question all the time, right? Because as you said, right, the pocket watch, that's the first thing everyone's like, are you going to swing a pocket watch in front of me? And it's like, no, that is the Hollywood perception of hypnosis, right? And the stage perception. We've probably all seen a stage show where these hypnotists are making people bark like a dog or quack like a duck and do silly things. And, that's a stage performance. That's totally different. Hypnotherapy is really essentially guided meditation to help us tap into the deeper recesses of our mind, that subconscious mind. And a practitioner isn't taking control of your mind. They're not doing anything to you. Much like you just said, we're there as a guide. I explain it a lot of times to people in terms of fitness, right? You hire a fitness trainer. The fitness trainer can't do the exercises for you, but they're going to show you the proper form. They're going to tell you how many to do, how many reps, what order to maybe do things in. And they are guiding you through that process and supporting you through. That's what a hypnotherapist is doing. We're not controlling anything. We can help you dig deep to understand what you may want to change, whether it's a fear, overcoming a fear, changing habits, increasing confidence, boosting your level of self-worth and self-love. I do a lot of that work. And so we really peel back the layers to figure out, okay, well, where did this fear or habit come from? Something happened somewhere in our life to create that. And it could be one big thing. It could be a lot of little things, but to understand where those subconscious patterns came from. And then we work to recreate them and reframe them in the mind. And it's all through just a guided meditation. It's very simple. Again, it's nothing weird. Most people after their session just say, I feel really good. I feel very relaxed. Nothing strange is happening to you. It's just a form of guided meditation to really relax you, to help you reach those deeper recesses of the mind.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. What do you think has been the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself as you continue to put yourself out in the world in this manner?
Oh, good question. I think there's a lot, especially as I've been doing this hypnosis work. And for me, it's as much as I love sharing about my story and I'm very passionate about that, I have learned that I get to keep parts of that story to myself, that we can share, we can be very open and vulnerable, but you don't have to share everything. And you don't have to share everything all the time. You can kind of select bits and pieces to share at certain times that feel comfortable for you or at certain points in a relationship for you. And that it's not all or nothing. And I also grew up with like old school Italian family, right? You don't talk about anything. You keep your personal life quiet, and you put on that like everything's good front, and you don't share about the bad stuff. And that just never felt right to me, because the one thing that I felt when I experienced all that I did is I must have experienced this for a reason. Because why am I going through such hard stuff? I shouldn't keep it to myself, because if I can just put it out there more, even if I could just help one person, to me, that's huge. And so I went against everything I knew and what everyone around me believed or felt comfortable with. And I was just like, I don't care anymore. I'm just putting it out there because I know it can help people, and it has helped people. And so it's like, if I can just take that little bit of my experience and help someone else to make their journey shorter, easier, I'm all about it.
One of the things, and thank you for sharing, one of the things that I've learned, and this has been kind of tough, because to your point, sometimes I know in my life when I had an epiphany, I just wanted to vomit everything out, like everything. But part of being a badass, I think, is developing our discernment, recognizing and trusting in ourselves enough to be discerning. This is not appropriate. This is appropriate. This is appropriate. This is appropriate, whatever.
Yep.
So, hats off on you for that. So that's really interesting.
Well, and it's not always easy, right? And I think that's what people need. It's a journey. Like, I mean, I definitely have probably put out too much to the world at certain times, and then other times I probably held back. And so again, it's finding that comfort level for you. And I think giving yourself the permission to do that, and also the permission to know that it can change. It can change hour to hour, day to day, week to week. We all have different things going on, different points of the journey, that's going to change too. And just giving yourself permission that that's okay.
Giving yourself grace along in this lifetime, I think, is one of the key things that we are not taught to do, right? Our society tells,
yes.
Do well at school, meet a nice partner. Thankfully, now they're saying meet a nice partner, not meet a nice guy. We've gone past that gender. But, do all of these things. And to your point, as an Italian, don't share. Just, get your stuff, get your shit together and go. But
Mm-hmm.
learning to unlearn some things that we have been taught and giving ourselves grace along the way has been a real challenge, even for me. And I say even because there's been many people have looked at me, and I even did it as well, going, what am I complaining about? I've got such a great life. Oh my God, great parents, great friends, great family, great house, great husband. And yet I still had limiting beliefs that held me back. I still had this horrible narrative that I wasn't enough, that I needed to be better. I needed to do better, do more. That's how I ended up, being a coach. Very similar to you. I didn't have that same experience, but this idea that I needed to, I just wasn't happy, right? I wasn't happy
Mm-hmm.
despite. So I think giving ourselves grace is an important component of being badass. How do you give yourself grace on a regular basis?
Ooh, still trying to figure that one out. As you said, it's not easy. Um, there's so many layers to that. And I have definitely been kinder to myself through the years and have tried to really give, as I say, I like to give myself some space and some grace. And so sometimes that means for me just kind of retreating back, whether that's retreating from social media, retreating from my friends and family. And it's just to go inward, to just, we're all so connected all the time. And sometimes we just need that downtime. And sometimes we just need to reconnect with ourselves and be with our own thoughts, which can be a scary thing. But, I love the saying, we are human beings, not humans doing. And I am always a human doing, right? I'm out there doing 50 things every day, just like everybody else is. And we just live in this world where we're going. And so we're not always going to get it right. And there is no such thing as perfection. And sometimes if you just have to say, whoa, time out, it's too much, it's okay. And I think we need to just give ourselves more permission around that because, again, I had all these things, right? Like you said, perform well, do in school, do all the activities, be a leader in student government, right? Like from a childhood, this all started. And it's like, okay, this is not a healthy pace for anyone to keep up. And if we learned that as children, as we grow into teens and adults, we keep that with us. And so, really learning that it's okay. It's okay to not always be on top. It's okay to say no. That was one huge thing I've learned in the last several years. It's okay to say no, and that is a full sentence. Right. So I just think it's again, it's something like a muscle, right? We have to keep working at it and just giving ourselves the permission that it's okay.
I remember, to your point, telling someone, a friend of mine years ago, that I wanted to have a lazy day. And she corrected me. She's like, don't say that. You're not being lazy. You're just being you. And my mind was blown because I'm like, what? It just never occurred to me that I shouldn't berate myself for not doing, regardless of.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me. And I think, to your point, a lot of us feel that if we're not going 100 miles an hour, if we're not getting the entire to-do list done by noon, then we're being lazy. And it's such a misunderstanding that so many of us, women especially, I think, have adopted. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm still working on it. I am still working on it. But that's going to be another podcast for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have navigated and done a lot of work on your personal journey. I just want to touch base with your Italian family. How have they been through your journey? Have they come along with you? How have they been?
Yeah. So they've been great. They've been very supportive. As I said initially, everyone, of course, felt bad for me and was very protective and supportive of me. But as we all grew up, it's like you brush it under the rug, you pretend it didn't happen, and you move on. And so that was what I kind of did in the beginning. It was just like, okay, like we're going to pretend things are all happy and good, and we're not going to look at all this crazy stuff that just unfolded. But then I just really started to know, like, that wasn't healthy for me. And so I had to really push outside of that. And again, as I said, I was people pleaser. So I just wanted to make my family happy, I wanted to make everyone around me comfortable with the situation. But I wasn't worried about me and my comfort and what I felt good about. And I think it took me a while to even understand what that meant. And so I started sharing a little bit more. I think, they were like, oh my gosh, like you're saying this out in public and you're putting this out on podcasts. And I said, I am. And so they've been supportive of it. I tried to be respectful and that you know, again, you can choose the parts of the journey that you share. And so parts of my family, like that's some stuff for us. I don't need to necessarily share all of those things. It's my experience. It's not about other people's experiences. And so they've been great. They've really supported me and have helped me to say, like, great, like, we love that you're doing this and we are going to cheer you on.
I used to be an event planner for years, so I completely know what goes into that. And
Mm-hmm.
I found myself, maybe you did too, but I found myself really unable to set boundaries with my boss or my clients.
Mm-hmm.
So that, while I loved the work because I just loved it. There were so many wonderful things about it. I love being part of a team. But I remember at the beginning of a week saying, I just got to get through the week. I just need to get through this event and that event and that. Just need to get through. Okay. And then I'd get through the week. Everything would, for the most part, would go really well. I would have like maybe one day of freedom. And I'm choosing that word for a reason. And then it would start up again, this anxiety of, I just need to get through. I just need to please this client. I need to make sure I get this thing done. I need to, all of those things. And it was a hamster wheel that I only got off of the hamster wheel because my boss passed away suddenly. And it was the beginning of a whole change in my world. We actually moved from one province to another. But I'm curious, when you think back on that time, if you saw your relationship with your work change at all as you did the work outside on your personal journey, if it affected how you navigated your work journey. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%. So I feel everything that you are saying. And that is exactly what happened to me. And I think it's interestingly enough, I think I started to disassociate or pull away from that industry even before all of this because I was frankly just burnt out. It's a very high stress position. Like you said, you're constantly trying to please clients. There's really no boundaries. It's morning, noon, and night because it's, a timed event, right? So yes, sometimes like leading up to an event, you're working morning, noon, and night, and there's just no boundaries. I used to work a lot with international clients. So I was, I'd be getting calls from Japan in the middle of the night because they were awake. And I was just like, okay, well, that's what you do to get the job done. And it was fun. I mean, I loved it in my 20s, right? I traveled all over and like it was a great experience. But then I just really started to say, like, this is too much and this is not the life that I want to lead. I was missing a lot of time with family and friends. I was missing social events and milestone events. And I just said, is this really what I want? And so I really that's where it really started. And then when I went on this personal development journey, it just built my confidence that because I had always wanted to be employed for myself. And it really started to give me the confidence that, you know what, you can be employed for yourself. You can start your own business. You don't need necessarily the comfort of a corporation. And so that's, I think, where it really started to change for me was to just build my confidence that I could do whatever I wanted. It didn't even have to be an event, but that I was capable and that I was worthy. Those were the two big things for me to really just say, like, no, like you can do this and you are absolutely worthy of it. Because I think for so long, I never felt worthy of my career, of my salary, of any of these things because I just was always in this like, life is hard, life's a struggle. And it is. But when again, we can change our mindset around that, it really can change things for us.
Okay. So inquiring minds want to know what came first, the mindset shift or the acceptance that you could have a mindset shift?
Ooh, I guess I've never actually thought about that. I'm going to say that I think that some of the mindset shifts started first. And then it was that aha moment to be like, oh, wait a minute, this is all kind of fitting together in a puzzle.
The mind is amazing. And the
It
more
is.
time that goes by that I do this work and I interview people like yourself, I'm also a high performance coach. So I'm privy to a lot of different concepts and ideas. But really, oh my God, people, do you know how powerful your mind is? And the chances are you're only using this much of it.
Right.
So
Right. I mean, that is still something, like you said, I do this work every day, but every day I still come across people or conversations that I'm like, wow, like I just learned something new. And it's just that reminder that how powerful our minds are and that we don't use it enough to help ourselves.
One of the things that's coming across my frame of reference on a regular basis now is this understanding that our life there's a direct correlation between the quality of our life and the quality of the questions we ask of it and of ourselves. And I've never, up until fairly recently, in the last few years, I've never really thought of life that way. I just didn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm really seeing the benefit of asking myself every day a beautiful open-ended question that allows me to think of possibilities rather than connecting to the old narrative that I used to have. For example, the old me from, 15 years ago or more would be wake up in the morning and go, what do I have to do today? Oh God. All right. So what's going to go wrong today at work, for example? The new me is like, ooh, what's going to go right today? What's the best thing I can do to, okay, let me think. How can I really show up as myself today? And what I'm learning is that when I ask those types of questions, I get great answers from my brain. Oh, well, Mahara, you can be extra vulnerable, or you can do this, or you can do that. When I asked the questions before of, what's going to go wrong today, I'd get an answer too. Well, you're going to suck. And, you're going to get to work on, you're going to be late again, or whatever. I'd come up with all of these reference points of things that have happened in the past. And what I know now, just to get back to the power of the brain, is that whatever we think, the brain will create some pathways around that. So the more negativity, the more pathways, the stronger it is. But I can change that. And so can you, and so can everybody, once we understand how the brain works. And again, I was saying this to a guest on a show earlier, how annoyed I can get when I think, why aren't we learning this in school? Why did
gosh, yes.
out? Like my daughters, I have adult children. They've said to me on numerous occasions, Mom, emotional intelligence is more important than math. Why the hell didn't I get this? Didn't we even talk about this then when I was in grade school or in high school and really, really was struggling? And I'm like, good question. So
I totally agree. I do not have children of my own, but I have a niece and nephews, and just seeing them as they're growing up, it's like, yes, why is this stuff not talked about more? I don't need to know advanced algebra or physics to be out in the world. Some professions might, but we could all benefit from just a little bit of this work to understand ourselves a little bit more. And I loved what you were just saying about making those simple mindset shifts. And one thing that I always do, again, it's simple, but when our days are busy, we were both just talking earlier, like how busy we are. And it's like from one thing to the next to the next. And so we can be like, oh, my day is busy. This is going to be stressful. I'm going to be overwhelmed. Or I can turn that around and say, I get to do this. How amazing that I get to have a conversation with you today, that I get to work with clients today, that I get to work on some marketing for some future programming I'm doing. That's actually amazing. It might be a very busy day, but I get to do these things. And how wonderful is that?
Total badass.
Yes.
Be able to switch that. Okay. So are you still doing any corporate planning?
I do still. I haven't quite pulled away fully from it yet. That was my whole career. That's what I went to school for. And I do find enjoyment in it. So I do still work with some clients on events. Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about everything that you do today. So thank you for sharing your experiences up until now. What are you doing today?
So, as I said, I am still doing a little bit of corporate event planning, but really what I'm most passionate about, as I said earlier, is really helping and supporting not just women, but just individuals through their journey. And so that is growing my hypnosis practice and just getting the word out there about hypnosis, as you said earlier, right? No, most people don't even know what it is. They don't know what a kind of tool it truly is and how accessible it is, right? You do mindfulness work and it's one of these things that people just don't realize how accessible it is to them. And I'm not going to say that it's easy, but it's so doable. And it's not like it takes years of training or anything like that, right? You can create these mindset shifts very easily. So I'm just really passionate about spreading the word about hypnosis and how people can use it in their everyday lives, whether it's something smaller or, something bigger, but just even like we were just talking about, these little mindset shifts that can really just change the trajectory of your day.
So do you work with clients one-on-one? Do you have a
I
group?
do.
Yep.
Yep. So I work with clients one-on-one virtually. So that's why it's great. I can work with clients all over the world, and I love that. I do offer some group programming throughout the year as well, but I do love the one-on-one work because we can really dig deep and go there. There's absolute benefits to the group hypnosis work, but it is fun to be able to work with clients one-on-one to just really, be able to go there with them as an individual and to really tailor the changes and the support to what they particularly need.
Can you share with us some of the results that your clients have had through hypnotherapy?
Yes. One that always just comes top of mind to me, as an individual, she is a performer and an entrepreneur. She's a singer and really starting to lack confidence in herself. Now she is beautiful on the inside and out, this gorgeous voice, this great entertainer, but that imposter syndrome set in. And as we know, again, social media can be a hard place, and there could be those trolls behind the keyboard. And so she would see people comment negative things about her and really get focused on that. And so once we dove deep and really started to understand, again, things went back to what happened to her at younger years. It wasn't just about what was happening in the here and now, but again, what happened to her earlier on that didn't set her up for success at this point, and what can we tweak and change. And within less than 6 weeks, she was out there. She was creating a new music album. She had launched a new program to help support younger musicians coming up in the industry. She was booking more gigs. She's been out there. I mean, I forget what milestone she broke on TikTok, but like a huge milestone on TikTok. And just such this change, because she did know deep down that she wanted it and she was worthy of it, but it was allowing herself to accept that and give herself the permission and to frankly not care about what anyone else thought of her. And so I always love that story. And then on the other side, I give an example a lot of a woman who had experienced a physical injury. Hypnosis can actually help with physical injuries, because it's not just, as your body is healing, there's a lot where your mind and body are very intertwined. And so she was trying to heal from this injury, and her physical therapist was like, they couldn't get her past a certain point. There was nothing physical that her or the doctors could find wrong. And we realized it was all in her mind. She was scared of re-injuring herself when we really dug deep to find out why she couldn't get through this recovery. Once we understood that and could really work with her subconscious mind to make her feel more confident around that and to feel protected, within a month, the doctors and the physical therapists couldn't believe the transformation, because they knew it wasn't physical and they just knew it was her mind keeping her limited.
Another example of how powerful our mind is.
Yes.
Wow. So great. Great examples. Thank you so much for sharing. How can clients reach you?
Yeah, so you can definitely, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, so you can check me out there on Instagram. It's the Alyssa Z. And you can find me on Facebook at Alyssa Zonghetti. You can also go to my website. It's A2Z hypnosis.com. So ATOZ hypnosis.com. The name of my practice is called A to Z Hypnotherapy, a little play on the initials. And please, reach out to me. I love to talk with people, like I said, about this. Feel free to DM me any questions you have about hypnosis or mindset work. And also want to encourage people, if you go to my website, I actually have a free hypnosis download. So whether you've experienced hypnosis or not, it's a great way to just have some time at yourself, carve out 15 minutes. It's all about increasing our level of self-love, which we can all use more of. So I encourage people to go to my website and download that and just create that 15 minutes for yourself in a day. You could listen to it daily and just really connect with yourself.
So good, guys. Check the show notes. Of course, all of the links will be there. Alyssa, the last thing I would love you to share with my audience, with our audience, is a few little tips for someone that has no clue what we've been talking about, but their interest has been piqued. What are a couple of little tips that you can share on how to feel more badass on a daily basis?
So, gosh, there's so many tools out there, but I think just some of those little changes, and sometimes people are like, oh, this is so silly, but it works. So, one simple thing that I learned years ago was to get at when you first wake up in the morning, whether you're laying in bed for a few minutes or you get right out of bed, to start with a smile. To just smile, even if you have nothing that you're feeling happy about in the moment, just creating that physical change in the body and smiling, it actually can really start your day in a very positive way. The other thing I love is talking to ourselves in a mirror. I still feel awkward about it. I've been probably doing it for 10 years and I still feel funny when I do it, but it works because you're talking to yourself, right? We talk so kindly to everyone else around us, but we don't talk to ourselves so kindly. And so I think getting into that practice, even if it's 60 seconds and just looking in the mirror and talking to yourself very kindly. And if I can, I would love to leave people with one last thing. I do this a lot when I'm doing speaking engagements. And I want to encourage people, take a moment, whether you do it right now or after this, and I want you to write down everyone and everything that you love. And then I want you to take a look at that list. And did you put yourself on that list? Most times people do not put themselves on that list, or if they do, they put themselves very far down on the list. And so I think that's just an eye opener for all of us that we need to be kinder to ourselves and to really remember to love ourselves more. If we want to love and take care of others, we have to love and take care of ourselves too.
Bam, mic drop. So good. Alyssa, thank you so much for sharing your story and giving us a little more insight to the world of hypnotherapy. I really do appreciate it. Folks, thanks for joining us today on the Art of Badassery. As I said before, check the show notes. If you enjoyed our conversation, please share it with someone. Give us a rating or some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. This has been the Art of Badassery. My name is Mahara. Special thank you to my guest, Alyssa. Take care.
Thank you so much. This has been so great.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another badass episode. Your support means the world to me. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, don't forget to like, share, and rate the episode on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback keeps the badassery flowing. And hey, if you're ready to unleash your inner badass and conquer whatever life throws your way, why not book a complimentary badass breakthrough session? Just click the link in the show notes to schedule your session, and let's kick some serious butt together. Until next time, stay fearless, stay fabulous, and of course, stay badass. This is Mahara signing off.